if we look at the global aspect of it, for example, right now, what is happening in the European Union, Germany, what did Germany do? Basically, first of all, they stopped their coal plants. Fair game, fair play. They even stopped their nuclear power plants. Okay, this up to you. Third thing they did, okay, they stopped Russian gas. So and well, now this what is happening in Europe. You have an energy crisis. Everything, the inflation and everything. So some people argue that oil and gas is still very much in it's very necessary for our current lives. You can't just it's very difficult to move to a sustainable option because
Of course, that's why I said it's not something you can just say, from tomorrow we shut down all the stuff and then just, figure it out. It doesn't work that way. It's a gradual process, right?
like beforehand I was actually like I'm talking about maybe 2-3 years before. I was actually very I was very happy to see like organizations such as the European Union taking this initiative into like sustainability and climate change. And then now I see what's happening, and I'm hearing that even Germany is they want to reopen their coal factories. So it's like everything which they achieve is going backwards again. So it's sort of like it just mess up with your mind a bit. Like, is this the right way to progress things, or are we actually going backwards in that sense?
I mean, we definitely not necessarily going backwards from what I'm reading and from my understanding of spending a lot of time, reading up on all this stuff. I really don't think we're going backwards. I think most countries have taken some initiative or other to move in that direction.
I think China has done a very good initiative in the sense of electric vehicles. Only in that sense, like
Yeah. I
some
mean,
some
that's
say
just
that.
yeah, that's just one aspect. Like that, there's lots. So again, so this is what I keep insisting, right? So it's a choice that you and I can make. Either we can say, you know what, um, my neighbor is a bad guy, all people around me are bad. Why should I be a good guy?
Yeah,
Right?
correct.
It just doesn't make sense, right?
Yes, yes.
That's the same line of thinking, right? Um, you and I can do what we can do in our within our limitations, lah. If we can make a difference, it'll add up, right? We talk about drops. Even as kids, we learned like drops of water makes the ocean, right?
Yeah.
It's the same concept, lah. So if we can, so I continue in when I share, I always tell people the same thing, lah. Yeah, I mean, you and I try and do what we can in our sphere of influence. So my sphere of influence is me, my immediate family, my friends. Even if I can influence my little circle around me to be more sustainable and do the right things,
It will make a difference.
it will make a difference. And if each person thought that way,
Yeah.
it's an
Do
easy
you have
solution, lah.
any? Do you
So-
have any examples of like anything that our viewers can maybe apply to their life in order to be more sustainable? Is there any advice you can give us? Like any small
Like the
things which we
little-
can do.
the little things,
The little
right?
things we can do. It's
Well, I'm
will
honestly
serve-
not an expert in this area. Like I said, sometimes I feel like I'm a little hypocrite myself. Because
all
like I
do
said,
that.
it's
We all
hard,
do.
right?
We
Because
all, I mean,
we all
it's
do.
human
because
nature.
because it's like because we're talking about changing habits, right?
Correct.
These are long term habits. It's difficult to suddenly switch and get rid of old habits. It'll take some time. But like I said, what's important is at least for you to have the right intentions to say first is to accept. Step one, I think, is to accept that, you know what, I need to make a difference or I need to make that change.
Yeah.
Right? That means, okay, you're agreeing that there are things that you're doing that
Baby steps, baby steps.
yeah, baby steps.
You're
You
agreeing
can
that
call
there
baby
must be a
steps.
fundamental change.
Yeah, fundamental change, lah. Otherwise, we can say many things, but we may not necessarily implement it in our own lives. Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of organizations, a lot of small organizations. For example, I met some people who are making bamboo straws. I met some people who are making a lot of stuff with bamboos. I met this guy who was actually making edible cutlery in Singapore, which is amazing. So colorful, pink,
Okay.
blue, green spoons.
I think I saw that on
Yeah,
Shark Tank.
you can eat and then this, in Singapore, it's really nice. I mean, in a larger scale, if you look at Singapore, we're working on this whole concept of city in nature. So, 1 million tree plantation is going on. There's a lot of work happening in restoration of mangroves in Singapore. There's a lot of work happening in terms of restoration of some of the coral reefs in Samakau and in Samakau and some of these places. I know there's a lot of work happening to ensure we don't lose some of our endemic species. Even in the recent news, you would have seen they released some endemic crabs. You know,
Okay, yeah.
there is a lot of work happening. So maybe not everybody is aware of what's happening. Maybe there needs to be more work in terms of communication around what's happening, because I think such good communication also helps bring that belief in people that, you know what, yes, we can all get together and make that positive change.
One controversy, because I'm in the textile industry, so this is something that really disturbs me, especially that I see in my industry. For example, we talk about recycled polyester. Recycled polyester, usually they will give you a certificate, which is it's called GRS certificate. So when you supply this material, it's certified that this is recycled polyester. But the pricing difference between normal polyester and recycled polyester. So first of all, recycled polyester will be of because it goes to more processes, will be of a lower quality than normal polyester. And on top of that is
More expensive.
Is much more expensive. And the product itself is not expensive. It's the certification body that makes it so expensive. So this is something like so the controversy is, just now you mentioned that we Singaporeans are very spoiled in the sense that I mean I agree.
Don't quote me for that and get me into trouble for that.
No, the thing is I agree. Because right, if I'm a person like I myself, I grew up in Peru. So I grew up in South America. So I've been lucky enough to see both sides of the coin. So what will people in Peru think when let's say an external body is telling all these, the local people, you have to buy recycled polyester because it's sustainable and it's better than you. The guy is going to tell you, I have to pay much more for this. So why do I have to buy this when I can get a cheaper, less sustainable alternative? Because in their shoes, they are thinking of putting food on the table for their family. They wanna live within their means. They wanna live their most comfortable life. They do not have the luxury to think that I have to protect the environment. I have to I have to save the earth. My concern is I need a roof on the table. I need to put food for my family. For my kids to eat, for my wife to eat. So there is the other aspect to it. Why is it that whenever you want to be sustainable practices, like even your shampoo, like the sustainable shampoo, the branding, things are becoming, just the branding of being sustainable makes it so much more expensive. It should be the other way around, right? Like, wouldn't people be more enticed to it if it becomes much more affordable? That's the
Yes, I mean, I agree. I mean, I think this is something that I've heard from many people. I mean, even organic food is more like
It's a lot
organic
more
vegetables
expensive.
is more expensive than, for example, non, because it's grown in very stricter conditions.
Correct.
No use of pesticides. So sometimes the processes are long drawn process before you produce. But I think, like I said, these are all baby steps in the right direction. Simple way of, I mean, and this is all volume based, right? Volume based, right? For simple example is, if there are more people buying organic food will become cheaper after a point. Because now the volume. See, when I have to grow just 10 vegetables, it's more expensive,
Correct.
right? But
if I grow 1,000 or
yeah,
10,000.
so once because there has to be a demand as well, right?
Yeah.
So eventually, if the demand grows, all of this could become cheaper. Same in your example as well, right? Today, how many people are buying the sustainable
Polyester.
polyester, for
yeah.
example, right? I mean, I'm not an expert in that area, but I'm just
very-
using basic logic to say when there is more demand, more users, the cost will come down eventually, right?
Yeah,
Because the cost of manufacturing is high. So as a product manufacturer, I will become cheaper if more people are buying my product, right?
Correct.
It's as simple as that. So, you know, these are complex concepts. There's so much more we can, divulge into some of these topics. I think it's a subject in itself for an entire another show for you guys. To probably
wait.
bring in some sustainability experts. I mean, I'm happy to introduce you to some really cool sustainability experts.
That would be great.
Yeah, that'd be
You
good.
want
That'd be
to,
good.
dive into a more in-depth
A sustainable
conversation
episode.
on these subjects.
Okay, back to the wildlife. I just want to know lah. Can you explain to us and also the audience how will global warming affect the wildlife and the animals?
I think it's the other way around in the sense, yeah. So, if you look at the latest statistics that's coming out from WWF and some of the other organizations which produce this legit stats. I call it legit stats because nowadays a lot of stats.
There's a
are
lot
available.
of statistics where
Yeah, you also need to know the source, so you know that okay, it's a lot more legitimate. So, at the rate at which extinction is happening globally is crazy.
it's crazy.
It's really
Yeah, I
crazy.
saw that.
And a large part of it is because of deforestation. That means we are cutting away more and more forests.
Yeah, the
trees.
timber business.
Yeah.
Timber, yeah, there's something that
For example, the meat industry is a big contributor. I think it's like it's somewhere in the top 3 or 4 biggest contributors because the meat industry produces so much of methane gas. So all these gases get trapped in our atmosphere, like a little balloon or a ball.
in the ozone layer and stuff.
it,
Okay.
it gets trapped, and then of course it's not, moving up, so it's going to heat, everything around us. For example, if you're talking about Southeast Asia, a lot of clearing of a lot of these forests also
Yeah, we
means
just had a haze recently, which is it's still going on. Yeah, the haze and
yeah. Some of them are man-made fires. Some of them are accidental fires. Some of them are because they're just clearing new patches of land for farming. So, like peat swamps, a lot of people don't realize a large part of all these rainforests hold peat swamps. These is basically water collected under the ground for years and years together, and you see broken trees, wood, everything is there, and it holds a huge amount of carbon dioxide underneath.
Okay.
So when you destroy these habitats and you remove all the water and clear the lands, all this is released into the environment. So these are all natural design of nature, Earth in its own way to protect. And
Okay,
so a
understand.
lot of methane gas and carbon dioxide is released into the atmosphere. Then what happens? Of course, it's going to become warmer and warmer and warmer, right? Weather conditions across the globe have been changing dramatically, which is impacting nature, impacting wildlife dramatically. I mean,
there's a debate actually. Remember we were talking about we were saying that humans, we as human beings, we're actually invasive species.
Yeah.
We were talking a whole conspiracy going that
I mean, it's a complicated concept, right? I mean, you look at it in a way. For example,
because we have so many
we are one of the most intelligent creatures in the world, right? Because of that, probably I feel like we've taken advantage to
Yeah, correct.
Nature.
just do
Abuse
everything.
nature. Yeah. Actually, I have a question about the wildlife right now. So, like global warming, climate change is all affecting the wildlife. But is there a species or animal which is extinct already, which you want to take a photo of, or you really like to see?
Oh, that's a good question. That's a good question. For me, it will be a dodo.
No, but yeah, just recently,
Why not? Yeah, that's
recently extinct, right? So, I mean, it would be interesting if one day you were in somewhere and you saw like, hey, is that the extinct animal?
there have been several cases. See, with wildlife, it's interesting because if you look at places like Amazon, right, there are still so many undiscovered species. that you and I are not aware of?
I had the luck to be. I was in this place in Iquitos in Peru, which is just in the like very at the center of like of the Amazon, and it's amazing. It's amazing the types of I was just seeing birds. I was seeing like bluebirds, like rainbow color birds. So it's like
That's
so
an amazing
so
habitat. Yeah.
I don't even know.
I mean, imagine even after so many years, we are still discovering new species.
Huh?
Even with orangutans, I think a few years ago they discovered a new orangutan species.
Oh, okay.
And it's a controversial area because I think there's a dam construction happening very close to that habitat, and they were planning to destroy the habitat where this new species was found. And I think people are working on conservation of this species. It's complicated, lah. So this.
So, is there an animal that you would like to see?
Not really. I can't think of anything.
Apai, how about you? Is there any animal?
I mean, for example, I
Dinosaur.
recently went to.
Dinosaur. he wants to take a picture of a dinosaur.
So I recently went to Tasmania.
Okay. Oh, wow.
I have to get there, man.
So, you're looking for the Tasmanian tiger?
Yeah. So I read up about it. We went there. A lot of people spoke about it. So in my mind, I was thinking, sometimes I wonder if some of these species are.
Did it even exist in the first
I
place?
don't
did,
know.
it did.
Are still exist. Maybe very few, and we've still not.
Yeah. There are a lot of sightings of the thylacine, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there are still people saying that they are seeing it playing with their dogs.
For example,
and stuff like that.
Singapore, we had a lot of tigers before Singapore was.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, serious?
Yeah, of course.
Oh,
Like
I
you know
didn't
the
know that.
stories. The
I think
I
I think Singapore
Singapore
Zoo.
Caught all the
I
tigers.
mean, yeah. I think. Yeah, don't quote me for it, but I think, if I remember correctly, I think Singapore Zoo also has the remains of either one or two of the last tigers that lived in Singapore. Of course, lah. A small island like Singapore, you cannot coexist with tigers.
Yes, correct.
It's either them or us, right? So, but of course, in the process, we lost a lot of tigers. I mean, what's happening with the Malay tiger now? Still, I mean,
It's still
yeah, but a lot of, I think in the recent past, I see a lot of good work being done to continue to save the tiger species from extinction.
Okay.
In India, I know, in India, places like, I think, Nepal, the tiger populations have
slowly regrown back.
slowly improved.
Do you think India is doing a good job in terms of conservation efforts?
I think so. I think at least in the last decade or so, there's a lot more focus, a lot more awareness, including the governments have been reasonably supportive. It's not always.
Like the West countries are always criticizing India that they're not doing enough. Like even right now, there was this controversy. The foreign minister of India, Jayaprakash, he was talking to some Western Western interviewer. The Western interviewer asked him, "Why are you importing so much oil?" And then he replied, "I have 1+ billion people to take care of, and these people depend on
Energy.
on energy."
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can't just paint the same solution for everybody, lah. It doesn't work that way. Singapore, for example, we are so small.
It's so much easier.
A solution applicable to Singapore may not be applicable to a large country as India,
Yeah.
of the size and the population.
Yeah.
So, of course,
No, but I think we are very glad that you mentioned that India is doing a lot of steps.
of course, there's a lot. There's a lot happening in India, and especially on the conservation efforts. There's a lot of work happening. Also because of higher and higher levels of awareness over the years. Even common people are more and more conscious now. Just the increase in the tiger population is a good example of the efforts the country's put into. Yeah, I mean, I'm not an expert in that space. I don't have the stats, but I have a lot of friends who are working in that space, so I know for sure we've done very dramatic improvements.
Have you guys heard of this recent? There's this recent scientific controversy that is coming up that apparently nowadays with genetical engineering
Modification.
modification, you might be able to bring back extinct species again.
They are,
Do you
they
think do you think it's ethical to do it like
It depends, honestly, to me.
like I don't think it's ethical. I don't think humans
It
should play
depends
God.
if they know what they are doing. Basically, if they try it in a controlled environment, see how it affects the environment, then,
So-
you know,
So I don't know about that, about genetic modification, but I know there are. Well, I don't even remember the names, but I know for sure there are some species which only exist in the zoos today, and not in the wild.
oh, like,
Okay.
Like what?
But they
Okay,
were
like-
genetically sort of
Not genetically. So
it's just, yeah.
they just put in a control environment.
yeah, they're only there in the zoos today. Some species are only there in the zoo today.
In the wild, they are extinct, right?
In the wild, they're extinct. So I also know a lot of zoos and a lot of organizations are working together to see if
They can like, you
yeah,
know,
if they can
Reintroduce.
reintroduce some of these species back into the wild, which I think is a good initiative. But subject to
the animal.
there's
right?
enough habitat to
Yeah.
support.
Yeah, and they could
those
be
kind of-
extinct.
They
again,
are
you
bringing
know.
back like the mammoth in Siberia. Yeah, they are doing it now. Like I think by
What this is what
2029.
genetically?
Yeah, so they have the DNA of the mammoth, right? They put it in the Indian elephant, and the Indian elephant will give birth to a mammoth. Then they will start to they'll put this mammoth in
Is that even
Siberia.
possible?
It's possible. They are doing it now.
No, but how? If
They
you
already
are
gave a
Indian
date.
elephant must give birth to an Indian elephant. How will it?
So
you
no,
know?
so they put the DNA. they put the DNA of the mammoth into the Indian elephant, which is pregnant or something like that.
Okay,
Because the DNA of the mammoth and the Indian elephant is
a lot of similar. Okay,
yeah, a lot of similarities. So they tweak the DNA to make it like the mammoth, and now they are making some.
It could be
you know.
lah. I mean, I'm not
Try and error.
very aware of it, but there are simple examples. You know of ligers, right?
Yeah, like us, yeah,
yes.
yeah. Oh,
Yes.
I love them.
Yeah,
But it's not natural.
It's not
it's
natural.
not natural.
Yeah.
So again,
Yeah,
there are pros and cons, and there's both for and against.
Do you think it's ethical for like
Like
to do
this?
this? Like
I don't think. I think anything which is unnatural is not ethical. Is what I feel. Again, it's my personal take, lah. I mean, sometimes you just allow nature to take its own course.
take its course.
I think when we interfere too much is when we have a lot of problems, including all the COVID and all some of
Yeah,
these.
it started from beds,
yeah,
at a lab,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
now
yeah.
it's coming out. It started, before everyone was saying it was China's fault and everything, and now slowly things are starting to that
To reveal,
actually-
yeah.
to reveal that it came from a funding from the US, but whatever. This is
It's
another
another
debate for
episode,
another
yeah.
day.
Okay, wait. So actually, it's very interesting because the exotic pet trade, right? A lot of it is, I mean, it is condemned, right? It's not a good thing to do. But I read somewhere that, like for example, the bird sun conure, a sun conure bird, most of it is, the majority of the species is considered in this trade. Like in the wild, it is very rare to see it now. Now, majority of this is in the exotic pet trade. So it could be that the only way this sun conure species survives is through exotic trade. So
Oh, yes and no. I'm personally not a big fan of
Wildlife in captivity or
wildlife in captivity. Not a big fan at all. I feel it is cruel. It's almost like, who are you to decide? Who gave you the authority to say, we could keep them? Imagine if orangutans kept you and me in cages. Right? So
like I saw that
just
movie.
because you're an intelligent species, you
Have you seen the movie Planet of the Apes?
I love that movie.
It was a bit disturbing for me, like whatever we've been talking right now is like I had those experiences when I was watching the movie. Like just imagine if those guys put us in cages and stuff like that. How will we react?
Yeah, of course.
But we are actually sort of seeing it. I mean, not to animals, but human beings as well. Like I'm sure you guys have heard of the conflict in Israel and Gaza.
Of course.
Whatever is happening right now, Israel. I mean, I don't want to touch so much on it because later it becomes a controversy. But basically, Israel were putting a group of Palestinians in the Gaza Strip, and they were restricted. They couldn't leave. They couldn't leave this part of the country. So, and the Gaza Strip is just near to the coast. So these people were sort of caged, and whatever is happening right now, unfortunately, there's war, many lives are lost, and you could say it's like this is what happens when you hold people in a cage for so long. You know, it's just you sort of it's just some sort of reaction to it as well. So
Yeah,
myself, I wouldn't want to experience. You know, I think no one would want to experience being in a cage as well.
Correct.
And if we consider saying that every living being has a soul, you know, then that's the whole argument for it.
I think you'll be surprised if I tell you, I think illegal wildlife trade is somewhere in the top 5 in terms of the amount of money that exchanges hands.
Okay.
Wow.
Talking about billion-dollar businesses. It's huge. It's huge. In fact, if you guys have time, I worked on a story on illegal wildlife trade. It's an interview-based story along with WWF Singapore, with NParks.
Within Singapore, or
I mean, it's more of
worldwide.
a showcase of what Singapore's role in controlling illegal wildlife trade in the region. See, because of where we are located and because of our ports, a lot of the wildlife
Comes here first, right?
in and out through our ports.
Okay.
So Singapore, we've done some great progress. If you see, I'm not sure in the news you would have seen in the past, we confiscated elephant tusks.
Oh, yeah.
elephant tusk,
Ivory.
ivory tusk in Singapore.
Yeah, there's a lot of it.
Yeah, we confiscated them from the ports, from our Singapore port. That's where, I mean, I think that was equivalent to almost 300 elephants.
Oh,
Imagine 300 elephants killed.
killed just for their task, right?
The stuff that they are
Confiscated.
confiscated was equivalent to almost, I happened to interview, and we also have an interesting lab in Singapore, which is the Center of, I think the Center of Forensics, where we do a lot of DNA analysis and stuff like that. I think we now have the technology to even trace the origin of some of the products, like pangolin scales or any exotic species.
Oh, that's
and
great.
stuff like
Yeah,
that. Like shark fins. So they're making some amazing work. They're doing some amazing work in Singapore. So I had spoken about this, and I interviewed a lot of these people in the documentary that I did.
Okay,
So when you
may we have what is the name of the documentary?
wow. I think it's just titled "Illegal Wildlife Trade."
Illegal wildlife trade.
Yeah, I'll share the link
Yeah,
with you guys.
we'll put up the link.
Yeah, we'll put up the link as well.
It's a good story because.
Maybe we can put it in our Instagram as well to get more.
Yeah, I had the opportunity to interview the ICA guys
Oh, okay.
who actually do
Who
all
caught
the-
this, right?
Yeah, caught that. Then I interviewed the head of the DNA forensics lab. Interviewed some people from NParks who are in the leadership role. Also interviewed some very interesting people from WWF. There's this guy, Rohit, who's been working on tiger conservation for a really long time. Lots of interesting stories. This guy used to be like
It's so, like, for me, it's so hard to believe that 300 elephant tusks can actually, just pass by Singapore. It's so unbelievable. Like, and it's just one shipment that was caught. Imagine there are thousands of
Yeah, but we
shipments
work. It's a global network. So Singapore works with a lot of global organizations. So there's a lot of like Interpol and some of these organizations. So there's a lot of exchange of information to help support this process. I think also Singapore is planning to help and do more of this in the region, support other countries around the region and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, imagine it's a $1 million business. Illegal wildlife trade.
Now, like, I think we have discussed a lot of, wildlife and conservation and everything. Let's go back to photography. Going back to photography, a lot of your, photographs are taken by you, and you have to position yourself. But now with the introduction of drones, for example, do you think they might make your job sort of obsolete in the future? Is it something that are you worried about? Like,
Not
technology
really. So
might-
we've been using. I mean, I've been using drones for a while now. Of course, in Singapore there are limited spaces to
Fly the drone.
fly a drone,
Yeah,
obviously,
because
because
it could be considered not so ethical because it might be disruptive for the animals, you know.
Not true. I think yeah, I mean, see, ethics is not black and white. Unfortunately, it's not black and white. So sometimes, yeah, of course, some things you should not do. La. It's very simple, right? Some things are a no-no. It's black and white.
It's black and white, of
But
course.
for example, how close can I get to a subject, or how far should I be? There's really no. I cannot tell you be exactly 2 meters away from the subject.
Yeah, there's no written law for it. There's nothing to,
Right.
you
So
know.
a lot of it has got to do with. Um, that's why I keep talking about why it's important for people like me or people who do work like me to invest more time in understanding animals, their behavior, the landscape, the habitat. So your photography has a more holistic approach, and you're not just there to shoot a subject or an animal. So that really helps. But drones, I think drones has also brought a lot of different perspectives to storytelling,
Okay.
which visually very interesting because it gives you a 30,000 feet view of an habitat, which was not
Yes.
possible earlier. Yeah, earlier you had to go on a helicopter to get a shot like that. But at the same time, I think drones are still highly controlled because you're flying in an environment
Yeah,
where you
you're
don't have a
flying
lot
in
of
a-
control over it. I think all the policies around drones and all that are still evolving
Correct. That is the
because
new-
as new and as we face more and newer challenges, the governments and the respective groups are bringing in those norms and changes. But predominantly, you cannot fly drones in most national parks around the world
Okay.
Okay. But what's the
unless
reason?
you have special permission.
But what is the reason for that?
Of course, reason is because
You know, open airspace. You know, you don't want
yeah,
to
open airspace. You don't
That is
know.
more government kind of thing, right? I mean, like, why is it? Will it affect the wildlife?
It can be disrupt. I mean, the noise or whatever can be
It
disruptive
could,
to animals.
it could disrupt. How do I put it? I'm just trying to find the right way to. Yeah, it could disrupt. Um,
Like, okay, let's just put it. Your drone malfunctions. Like it just drops on the wild. You know, then the animals.
But I mean, it's a very, very like small scale kind of thing. What?
But
I mean,
when
of course, it will affect. It is something that
even
yes,
if it's
so-
1 out of 1,000, there's the chance for it. As long as there's the chance for it, it becomes
So-
disruptive.
so it's. I'm not saying it's not allowed, but there is method to the process. So it's not like everybody can just go and flying drones, right? Then imagine there are 20 drones flying in about the forest.
Yeah.
Right. So all these parks, if you have a specific purpose, then there's a process. You'll have to go. You'll have to take permission. You know. So if you're a BBC or if you're working for an NGO and you're working on some legitimate,
So
you can't just go and fly a drone in a national reserve for fun. Is what I'm trying to say.
going
Just
in-
because you like photography, you can't just go and do it.
Yeah,
If there's a
100%.
legitimate reason as to why you're flying, you're doing a story, so then there's a process, right? You apply for a permit.
You apply for the
and blah,
permit,
blah, and
yeah.
all that stuff. So it's still allowed that way. With
Okay.
permit, yes.
But if we talk about the technological capabilities of a drone, like before at the start of the podcast, you were mentioning that you have to track and you have to get to this location and then you have to focus on getting a picture. Like a drone, nowadays I think not a very magnificent drone, but can go up to 100 km, can travel up to 100 km.
Yeah. I mean, if
It
you look
can-
at all the latest movies, David Attenborough series on BBC or any of the National Geographic series, a lot of drones are used. But as
But
long
are you
as
not worried that these drones might make your like
affect your job.
affect like a wildlife photographer? Will it?
not really, because not just wildlife photographers. So drone just brings you another perspective, right? You cannot do what a traditional cinema camera can do on a drone today. To a certain extent, yes, but the whole idea is to bring you a different perspective. So, for example, I talk about perspective when I teach. So sometimes I may be in a place where I'm shooting a certain subject. So a lot of my viewers live some of these experiences through my pictures. Because not everybody gets the choice to travel to all these amazing places. So when I say perspective, so sometimes when I'm taking photographs, it's very important for me to get rid of my big long 600 lens and take a more wider perspective of that
I
place.
agree with that, because for me, like, I don't know if this is weird or it's just me, that when I look at a picture, like interesting picture, I don't like looking at a picture. I want to see, like, at the bottom, I look at the story behind it. So that's what interested me. Not the picture itself, but
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
the
that's
story
what I mean.
behind it.
So sometimes it's important for me to also show my viewer what my eyes saw. Because
Okay.
sometimes what your camera sees, what your eyes see is dramatically different.
Correct.
With the camera, I'm at 600 on a thousand. Sometimes we go up to 1200 zoomed in of those beautiful eyes. But that's not the way a common man gets to see. So sometimes the habitat is so beautiful. It's important to like zoom out and give you
A whole picture of it, right?
holistic picture of where the subject is. So when I do my teaching, sometimes I I use different kinds of photographs to teach people on how I do my storytelling.
And there are any tips to your photography? Because I expect that you must be, first of all, strong enough to hold the camera in one position for very long. So are there any shoulder workouts you do? Like trying to keep fit, warm ups, or
Well, not really. I mean, yeah, you need
like
some.
maybe for my friend over here, he's so into gymming, so he does a lot of shoulders. So maybe you can get any tips?
So,
So-
but there's a lot of difference between hitting the gym
And holding a camera.
and being physically fit.
No, because if you're
Because I see a lot of friends, a lot of my friends who hit the gym regularly are not actually as flexible as me.
Oh, okay.
I doubt I can do a better job
mu-
than you even I hit the gym.
big muscles has got nothing to do with
but holding a camera in position for one place.
Of course, lah. It's practice, lah. Practice. Yeah, you need some basic strength.
Yeah.
We swim, we cycle, we run, we do a little bit of everything.
Okay, actually, I got an interesting question about. Let's say I am a normal guy. I want to start in wildlife. I want to be a wildlife photographer. Okay, and I want to get to somewhere. Like, let's say I want to get to be like on your level. So how much is like the equipment? Like how much does your equipment cost, and how much does it cost a year, roughly, on an estimate
To sustain.
to do this as a full
So
time
first
job?
of all, there are no wildlife photographer jobs anywhere in the world.
Oh,
It's not a
It's not a thing. is
because
it?
a lot of young kids today these days they message me saying, "Sir, I want to be a wildlife photographer. I want to be like you. Can I intern with you?" So it's very different from most of the other industry. So you'll have to do a whole array of things around it to sustain being a wildlife photographer.
For example,
For example, a lot of so how do wildlife photographer makes money? You're not making money because you're selling hundreds of pictures every day. Because it's not easy to sell so many pictures every day to make that living. So a lot of wildlife photographers they do wildlife photography tours. That means a lot of people have take other people who are interested in wildlife photography to all these exotic places.
okay.
And so along the way, they also teach you with some compositions and stuff
Okay.
like that. So that's one way
But how
of
much
making a
will it
living.
cost, for example, the equipment? Approximately.
like your equipment, how much does your equipment cost?
So it depends, right? So also
Is it like
some people are
15,000,
some people are interested
10,000?
only in macro. Some people are only interested in insects. So for me, I shoot everything that's wild I shoot, right? All the way from macro to whatever it is. So in my case, I have a whole array of different equipments I use. I have maybe think about 4 different cameras.
Like I was just googling and it says that the equipment can cost up to almost $10,000. Is it really
Well,
true?
It's more than that, right?
It's more than
yeah, the lens I use, the Sony lens and the Sony camera I
So
use.
what's the mm or the
It's a 400 lens.
400 mm
But it's expensive because it's
f2.8.
So at 400 f2.8 is very expensive lens.
So how much is it?
So the lens is approximately I think about $16,000-17,000.
Whoa!
Lens.
God
From
damn!
the camera,
Just the lens, right?
yeah, just the lens. But
And how about the camera?
the camera is about $8,000.
God
I
damn!
mean, if you're talking about the professional line
Yeah,
of
yeah,
cameras
yeah. Of course,
and
of
equipment we use,
Now about the traveling cost, like you getting
that
to the
depends.
location.
That depends.
Well, let's say just like put it as Borneo, for example.
It's Borneo. I mean, we're only talking about just Borneo for like a week or something, maybe somewhere in the range of 3,000 Singapore dollars for
Okay.
like a 3 or 4 day.
It's
Okay, so is there a place that you have not been to but you want to go to?
Oh, so many places.
Which place?
There's so many.
What is at the
I
top
wanna
of your
go,
list?
I want to go to the Amazon. I want to go to
Amazon.
Peru.
So what is stopping you?
Nothing really stopping me. I mean, they're all in the pipeline. I will probably go at some point of time. Not now because it depends on the projects we have. So now I have.
What are the projects you are currently
Working on.
focused on working on?
So right now, I think by end of this year, I'm trying to see if I can do a small project on coexistence in Singapore.
Coexistence, as in animal coexistence, human coexistence, or
Our coexistence
Our
alongside
coexistence.
all the animals. See, Singapore is a perfect ideal story because we have limited green spaces. We also have a growing population. So there's more and more HDBs coming. At the same time, there's conservation happening. So it's a slightly complex situation, right? So lately you've seen more and more incidents of animals sightings.
The tapir or taper, what is it called? I don't know.
No, I'm talking about like, for example, I think there was a monitor lizard on the fifth, a big monitor lizard. You open the door one morning.
Oh, yeah, I
and
saw the monitor lizard, it was
imagine
just- it was just
there's
running.
a 4 feet long monitor lizard looking at you in front of the door, right? You're going to
you know,
panic.
go crazy.
Yeah.
So that's just an example, right? We have otters, killing all the fishes in these koi ponds. A lot of issues, right? Small issues like this.
Okay.
So we will probably see more and more of this in the coming years.
As
the
as
population
Singapore
grows,
develops
as
and
development
grows.
happens, while national parks and all the people who are working on the design and stuff, while they've done a fantastic
And
job.
how can
Very few places in the world you will see like our parks, right? Like the mangrove boardwalks. So it's
Yeah,
like you
it's
still have access,
Yeah, correct.
but you still are away from
it's still away from
Yeah.
from the
yeah, I mean, you still have enough giving your subjects or the wildlife enough space. I mean, just the design is amazing in Singapore. Not many places in the world you'll find stuff like this. The way they've designed HDBs, that still you have access to a park.
you
But
already
this-
did an amazing job.
I'm sorry?
You are Urban Redevelopment
Yeah,
Authority.
yeah.
You already-
I mean, Singapore is like a really nice showcase for other countries, smaller countries, where they can replicate some of the work, the way we do it. But at the same time, because of all these issues, there is going to be more and more instances where we will come in contact with wildlife in Singapore. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done in terms of just educating people on coexistence. I mean, it's not either them or us. Like, for example, I'm not a big fan of all the pigeons being
being shot at.
being killed or poisoning pigeons. I'm not a big fan of glue traps. A lot of people use glue traps in Singapore. It's terrible. We've had civet cats. A lot of the domestic endangered wildlife also get stuck
trapped.
in this process. As simple as
Just being humane about it.
I mean, sometimes it's very hard because I remember a few months ago, I was reading some comments somebody has written on one of our ministers' pages because it was about the park and stuff like that. So there's a guy who says, "Look at Japan. Our parks, we can't even sit on the benches because there are ants in it."
Okay.
I mean, you are in a park, right?
Yeah, what do you expect? Yeah, you're in a park.
So that sometimes there are people at that level where for them it's a problem for them. They find it difficult to even go because they feel there are ants. So there is, I think, a need for a lot of communication around this, in terms of positive communication on coexistence and how and why it's important and all of this stuff. So this is a story that I'm working with ACRES.
Okay.
You heard of ACRES?
Yes.
With ACRES, and I think it's supported by NParks in Mandai. It's going to be a short story, probably, I don't know, maybe like a 10-minute video clip or something like that I'm working on. It's more
Just to
of,
capture the attention.
just to, tell people why coexistence is important, and, how we could go about that process. Just a positive, influencing people in the right way.
Are there any organizations that perhaps our viewers can be aware of, that maybe they can also help with contribute just a small bit to help fund the efforts that you guys are doing? Are there any organizations?
Of course, there are
we
a
can
lot of
help?
organizations. You can volunteer with ACRES, you can volunteer with NParks, you can volunteer with, I think there's another organization called Our Own Neighbors, which is
Do
specifically...
they have in their website? Do they have anywhere where they we can donate to their efforts as well?
I
Or-
think so. I think organizations like ACRES definitely has.
This one, I think I saw on the Orangutan Association or something.
Yeah, Orangutan Alliance, Borneo Orangutan Survival,
Orangutan
I
Alliance,
think
okay.
like BOS, I think they have, I don't know, approximately 400 orangutans in rehab right
I
now.
think we should put it up on our Instagram.
Yeah,
We should put up.
I'll
Orangutan
share.
Alliance.
I'll message you guys some of the links.
Okay.
And funding for conservation is not easy. It's not easy to raise funds for conservation, because it's a very hard space to work in, and it's hard to do conservation without funds.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
correct.
that's how the common man like me, that's what we can do in order to support these practices. I think there's something that
That's the
like-
best way we could help.
yeah, that's
Of
the
course,
best way.
of course, lah.
The baby steps, as we
Yeah.
mentioned, baby steps. It's been really, how to say, an eye opener. Speaking to you, because there's what you mentioned about accepting yourself. You have to accept that you have to make these changes in your life before we can even think on in the grand scale of things.
See, because don't get me, I know for the sake of course, because we're doing a podcast and stuff like that, we talk about different perspectives. But I think as just an individual, I either have the choice of, having that I don't care attitude, oh look, they are not doing their stuff, give you all examples around the world that's going wrong, to say, you know what, that's why I also don't care. Or look at, sometimes it's, what we consume is also important. It's also important to consume positive news. We all know that negative news gets more attention, right?
Yeah.
Controversy.
Controversial is consumed a lot more than a lot of positive news. So I think we need to figure out a way to put more and more positive content out there, which will have a positive influence on on people. So one of the reasons why I agreed to even come and talk to you guys is because I felt like you guys are doing it for a good reason, and it could probably
we can get it.
even if one or two people heard
See it
me
as well.
saying certain things, and if they could make a difference in their lives, it's still a win-win. It's not about trying to change millions of people around us. It's about
Correct. It's
even if-
1% at a time, right?
just your friends circle. Trust me, it will make a big difference.
Okay. Yeah.
But we would love to, like not 1%. We will try and get at least a few thousand people,
Yeah. I mean,
100%.
of course, I believe we will definitely speak again in the future.
Yeah.
You'll definitely have another conversation.
Sure, happy to.
Yeah.
Man. I mean,
For now,
as
I
long
think
as you guys don't put me into trouble.
No, because there's been a lot of podcasts, they had the issues with the, the POFMA and everything,
Oh no, I don't.
Yeah,
there's
we
nothing,
we are simple guys.
Yeah.
It's okay. I think some topics are hard topics.
Yeah. Correct.
So sometimes it's best for the right people to talk about the stuff.
Correct.
Sometimes we, even as podcast organizers like us, we may not have
We're not agree.
the necessary accurate information. So we just have to be a little careful. So we just don't put out
Yes.
some wrong notion out
False,
there.
yeah.
For
false
false
notion over
data and
there.
stuff.
Yeah.
So, is there any advice that you can give the common man or common woman, like what they can do in order to help be more sustainable, or make an effort in the conservation, preservation, and what else they can do in order to gather the correct information as well, because
Like
I
maybe a
think
good source of
a good
information.
source of information. And
Wow, that's there's so many lah. I will have to like put out links and stuff like that. But I think I will probably still keep it very basic because I'm more interested in the next generation, because I think it's the young generation and the future generations who are going to
take over.
take over or even face the consequences of all the bad stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
All
Our
mistakes.
mistakes. So I think I'm just going to say, if you're not experienced nature, I would advise, get out there, go see the sunrise every day. Sunrise is free,
Yeah, sunrise is
you don't have to pay for it. Just go out there, experience nature, absorb nature. I'm sure nature has a very, very positive effect.
Are there any places in Singapore you recommend for us to go to nature?
My favorite place is still Pasir Park.
Pasir Ris Park. Any other places like
So many. I mean, pretty
Coney
much,
Island? I don't know any.
pretty much all our nature parks are amazing for nature and wildlife treks and walks. Sungai Buloh, one of the largest mangroves that we have in Singapore. A good place to see a lot of. Right now is a good time to go because there are a lot of
Mangrove Park?
migratory species that's coming
Okay.
in. Because there are a lot of. I'm talking about Sungai Buloh.
Oh, Sungai Buloh. Okay.
Sungai Buloh, yeah.
Sungai Buloh. Sorry, my pronunciation is a little
Sungai
off.
Buloh is fine.
A lot of shorebirds coming right now, all the way up to I think what December, Jan. Singapore has a reasonably good migratory season. Technically, we don't have winter, but then
Okay.
we have a lot of species coming up. The last few years, we've seen some interesting species like a Himalayan vulture. If you remember, Singapore Zoo played a role
Yes, Singapore Zoo had their own.
they helped actually rehabilitate and release the vulture pack because these are all also some indications of what's happening with global warming and climate change. Because what is the Himalayan vulture doing in
Doing
Singapore.
here, doing in Singapore. Yeah. What the hell are they doing here?
no, because even with migration, right? All these animals and birds, and they have their migration roads or migration routes that they take every year. But climate change could mess with the routes. Sometimes, for example, you're supposed to take a certain road, and let's say snowfall happens when it should not snow, and the roads are blocked. What do? You're going to take a diversion, right?
Correct.
When you take a diversion, things could go wrong. You may not end up where you need to go. Right?
Okay,
So
okay.
global warming is definitely playing a big role in changing some of these migration patterns.
Are there any? Sorry to interrupt. Are there any also voluntary work that perhaps we like? Some of us
Yeah, like
can do.
acres and all that, right? Just now you were mentioning.
Singapore, you want to do Acres is a good place to volunteer. There are also several other organizations in the sustainability space. They're doing some work. If you think you have the right skill set, you're always welcome to volunteer. I know there are groups that's working on educating. They actually do like kind of road shows across different communities, educating them about our local wildlife.
Like for me, like I would like to volunteer. I wouldn't say it's for the wrong reasons, but it's also for it's a new experience. It'll be fun. I think for me to learn. It's fun. It will be fun to learn. Like maybe it won't be 100%. My heart will be into conservation efforts, but I think a lot of the common viewers as well. They can just get involved because it's fun as well. You get into nature, you learn new things. You meet with maybe a group of people that are already involved in conservation efforts, and you can learn a lot of them. Like perhaps even basic things such as survival in the wild, or
Yeah.
how to guide yourself, how to move from one place to another, how to keep tabs on your location. Some basic things which can definitely help you. And
So I mean that's the point, right? I mean you see that even our government runs very nice initiatives, but sometimes we don't see many people actively participating in a lot of those initiatives. Like the 1 million tree initiative is going on. A lot of us could be part of some of these initiatives. where we go and plant more trees. I mean, that's just an example, a basic example of that. So I think that's where a lot of positive communication helps. So I hope you guys will pick more topics that can actually either bring in more clarity
Yeah.
Clarity.
for your viewers on certain subjects,
Definitely.
or at
definitely.
least help them go in a more
To
positive
help them
direction.
understand.
Yeah.
That's definitely one of our
one of
one
the
of our aims and goals. Definitely.
So
We-
actually, sorry, what were you saying?
No, I think something we could work on is we can bring in more, like you recommended someone that was in the tigers.
Yeah.
Talking about tigers, so we can
Yeah,
get
definitely.
more
Yeah,
guys
we
that are
we
already
yeah.
involved in conservation.
It's hard to get
efforts.
some of these people because they're mostly overseas.
yeah,
course.
correct.
But for people like in the sustainable space, there are a lot of people.
Like even maybe some I think we can get someone from NS Park, so the parks that are
Yeah. Definitely. I mean, we are always open to learn about all these, and that is why we started this podcast. Actually, we want to know more. We want to gain some knowledge from the people we are speaking to. So I feel that we will definitely have a lot of guests that will be coming to talk about similar things as well. Yeah, and I feel that this is a really good. We had a really good conversation.
Yeah, we are really thankful.
Yeah, we are really thankful. Thanks for coming. I just have one last question. How do you get the people, like when you go to overseas, right? When you go to Borneo, how do you meet the local people and ask them questions? And let's say you are fighting for this specific kind of primate, like how do you know who to look for? Is it just by Google search, or is it
Well,
like
obviously, I mean, one is this generic information. Sometimes I go read articles. There are a lot of conservation-related articles out there where people have either put it in the form of a study or a PhD or a thesis about certain subjects. So go and study all those stuff. For example, in Vietnam, right? It took me 2 years because I wrote to a guy who had actually worked on conservation of these monkeys. So he saw my email after 2 years and he responded.
Okay.
okay, that's interesting.
That's
Because
incredible.
he's busy in his own world because they're not people who go and check their emails every day.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
They
They are
happened to
mostly
see my
involved in
email,
wildlife.
and he was at the same time he was kind enough to organize the whole trip for me. I mean,
Wow.
I called him and I said I'm interested. I want to come and all that stuff. I had like 3 domestic flights internally and all that stuff. I mean, he didn't even I didn't even pay him up front. So he said, send me a copy of your passport. He actually
wow.
booked all my domestic flights.
Oh.
I only paid him after I
Landed,
got
right?
there. I
Yeah.
got led there, right? So
That's incredible.
it's just nice when there are people who genuinely
genuinely care.
and want to do stuff like that. It's just amazing. Yeah.
So guys, before we end, can we give a hand to Mr. Jayaprakash?
Oh, Jesus.
100%.
Yeah,
thank
really.
you so much, for your
Happy
efforts
to,
in
man.
conservation
Happy,
and
in a way, I'm selfish. I have my own selfish reasons for being here because every opportunity I get,
it's a
I
good one.
look at it as an opportunity through which I can change the world. Make a small difference through maybe something I said or just
Yeah, definitely.
through a different thought.
That's not being selfish. That's being caring, actually.
Just being caring. Just being smart. So guys, thank you so much. We come the end.
Of our episode of Live Table Talk. Okay, we will see
See you
you.
in the next one.
Yep.
Thank you
Remember
so-
to subscribe, guys.
Like and subscribe. Thank you so much. See you next time.